One of the biggest problems guitarists face is getting stuck in a box. The 3-2 system by Pickup Music breaks you right out of that box, and it's easy. It's 3 notes on one string, 2 notes on the next, 3 notes on the next string, 2 notes on the next. It repeats diagonally across your whole fretboard. That's called freedom. That's called freedom. That's called freedom.
Horrible!
And it's easy.
1, 2, 3, 4. Jeez. You've been playing for so long, but there's a few things you're getting wrong. You start playing the same songs, and guitar just seems so fun. You look for answers, but the answers come from none. If you listen to me, I'll make you number one. So in this lesson, we're going to learn how to unlock the fretboard and build chords. We're also going to make songs and improvise over them. Actually, one sec. Yo, bro. Can you play some soft music, please? Thank you.
Okay, that's much better. So this is chapter 1 of the video. Here, we're going to learn how to unlock the fretboard. Now, to do this, we just need to know 3 things. What are intervals? How to use intervals to build a major scale, and lastly, how we can use the major scale to build other scales and chords and everything else. So make sure you're taking notes. That's disgusting. So yeah, take notes and let's get straight into it. The first thing you need to know is what an interval is. Now, an interval is just the distance between 2 notes. Write that down. An interval is just the distance between 2 notes. Now, there's 2 basic intervals. There's one called a whole step and one called a half step. A whole step is when you go up or down by 2 frets, and a half step is when you go up or down by 1 fret. So, for example, if I'm on fret 3 of the low E string, if I go a whole step up, then I go up by 2 frets. So now I'm on fret 5. If I'm on fret 3 of the low E string again, and I go down a whole step, then I go back 2 frets. Now I'm on fret 1. If I'm on fret 3 again, and I go up a half step, then I'll be on fret 4, because I go up by 1 fret. And if I'm on fret 3 again, and I go back a half step or down a half step, then I'm on fret 2, because I go down by 1 fret. This is going to be super important for what we do next. So remember, an interval is the distance between 2 notes, and a whole step is 2 frets, a half step is 1 fret up or down. The next thing we need to know is what a scale is. A scale is a sequence of notes arranged in a specific order of intervals, from its root note to its octave. Now, I'll break that down. If you look at this diagram, our root note will be the red circle. Anytime you see a red circle or a colored circle or a hollow circle, that means it's the root note, the starting point. Now, for the sake of this lesson, we're going to start from the low E string. This part here. That's our root note. Now, after that, as we go up, we have the specific order of intervals. It goes whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's our order of intervals. And then the octave will be the next red note, right? Now let's play it together. If we start from the low E string and play that, the order of intervals goes like this. We got whole step, so we go to 2nd fret, then whole step again, 4th fret, then half step, 5th fret, whole step, 7th fret, whole step, 9th fret, whole step, 11th fret, and half step, 12th fret. Now we're at the octave. Now if you look at the notes, the first note is E, and the last note is E as well. The octave is always the same note as your root note, right? So we'll do it again. If we start from the low E string, we play it, then we got whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. You have just made your first major scale. So our root note is the starting point. The specific order of intervals is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, and the octave is the last note you play in that. Now this formula gives us a major scale, and this scale is what we're going to use to do mostly everything in music. So remember this off by heart. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Nice one. The scale we just did was called an E major scale because our root note was E. The root note gives the name of whatever scale or chord you're about to play. So we've got E, and then after that we applied a major scale formula, which is whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half. If I want to do a different major scale, let's say a G major scale, I'd find G as my root note. That's on the 3rd fret of the low E string. So we've got G here, and then from there I apply the same formula of whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half. So from here, if you look at this diagram, you've got whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And this will be called a G major scale because our root note is G and we applied a major scale formula. This is how we work with scales and chords. You have your root note, which gives the name of the scale or chord, and then the formula, which will tell you what type of scale it is or what type of chord it is. So think of it like that. Let's shake things up a bit now. I think that memorizing the notes of the fretboard is useful for finding out your starting point or the root note you're about to play. This gives you the name of the scale or chord you're about to play. Now, after that, you want to think intervallically, as that's what's going to give you what type of scale you're about to play or what type of chord you're about to play. For example, if I go to the 5th fret of the low E string, this is an A note. So let's say the name is A. After that, we want to play a scale. But what type of scale? Let's say major scale. What intervallic formula are we going to apply here? We know that a major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So the intervallic formula will be just that, starting from an A note. So you can see A as the name and the type of scale, major scale. You know the formula for a major scale, so all you have to do is apply it from the root note. Now on the diagram, notice I didn't put the letters. I didn't say A, B, C sharp, D. I just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Start thinking of the major scale like that. You have your root note, that's the name. Then after that, just think numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will make things a lot easier. Now, on the diagram, you can see that I highlighted 1 and 8 red. Earlier in the video, I said that the root note and the octave are the same note. So if our root note, 5th fret of the low E string, is an A note, then that means the octave, number 8 in the scale, is also an A note. So you can see 1 and 8 as the same thing. Instead of saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And then when you reach 1 again, the whole thing just restarts from there. Now, unless you like Indian music, we're not going to be playing the same scale across one string. It sounds cool, but it's not practical for what we want to do. What we're going to do is find out where we can play the same notes of that major scale, but on different strings, so we can stay in relatively the same area of the fretboard without having to jump from 5th fret to 17th fret and so on. So how do we do this? If you go to the 5th fret of the low E string, that'll be our root note A, our starting point. From here, I want you to do whole, whole, half. 1, 2, 3, 4. That lands us on the 4th note of the major scale on the 10th fret of the low E string. From here, I want you to see if you can find the same note, but on the A string now. So play every note on the A string until you find one that sounds like the 10th fret of the E string. Pause the video here and do that. I'm gonna assume you didn't pause the video, let's just keep going. So do it with me. If we play the 10th fret of the low E string, let's see if the 7th fret of the A string sounds like that. They don't sound the same. Do 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 do. Let's try the 6th fret of the A string. They don't sound the same. Dun 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 dun. Let's try the 4th fret of the A string. Dun 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 dun. They don't sound the same. Let's try the 5th fret of the A string. Played one wrong note there. But these two sound the same. The 5th fret of the A string is the same note as the 10th fret of the low E string. So we can see it as this. We can play 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 10th fret of the low E string, or we can play it on the 5th fret of the A string. And as you can see, they both sound exactly the same. Now, you've just made one pattern. If you look at the diagram here, you can see that 4 is above 1. So remember that 4 is always above 1. And whenever you play 4, you can see it as 1 is always underneath 4, right? So let's do another one. Let's look for 5. In the major scale, 5 is a whole step above 4. So if we're on the 10th fret of the E string, 5 will be on the 12th fret of the E string. If we know 5 is a whole step above 4, that means when we go on 4 on the 5th fret of the A string, 5 will be a whole step above that on the 7th fret of the A string. Now see if they sound the same. They sound exactly the same. In the major scale on one string, we know that 6 is a whole step above 5. So if we know that 5 is now on the 7th fret of the A string, that means 6 is going to be a whole step above it. Cool. If we know 6 is here, we know that 7 is a whole step above that within the major scale. You can see that they sound the same. And if you know 7 is here, the last interval in the formula is a half step. So from 7, just do a half step and now you're on 8. Or 1 again. So you should have something that looks like this. And now you should be thinking, okay, right, 5 is above 2, 6 is above 3, 5 is a whole step behind 6, and 1 is down, up 1 string, and it's to be fair, you could say up or down, it just depends on how you see it. But 1 is down 1 string and back 2 frets from 5. Start making connections like this. This will help you navigate the fretboard faster and much better than like Caged and the 3-2 system and all these systems out there. It's called the NAS system. This is my system. Yeah? We're going to see things intervallically now. So we've figured out that 4 is above 1, 5 is above 2, and 6 is above 3. So instead of doing it all on one string, maybe try it like this. Cool. We figured out that 7 is a whole step above 6, or the 11th fret of the A string. If we go up 1 string and up 1 fret, on the 12th fret of the E string, that's where 5 is. Now, I just want you to see this pattern. Excuse me. from 5 on the 7th fret of the A string, if we copy and paste this pattern, we know that 7 will be on the 6th fret of the D string. And if we know that 7 is on the 6th fret of the D string, then that means a half step above that will be 8 again. So altogether, you've got something that looks like this. And we've just played the same major scale. Oops, my phone's about to die. We've just played the same major scale across, 5 frets. Let's take this further. We'll do one more exercise making connections, and then I'll speed things up from there. So if you follow me to the 5th fret of the low E string, that's our 1, an A note, and from there I want to play 1, 2, 3, 4. Whole half. That lands us on the 10th fret of the low E string. Now, from there, if we go back a half step, we know that's 3. If we go back a whole step, we know that's 2. If we go back one more whole step, we know that's 1. So if we know that 4 is also on the 5th fret of the A string now, that means if we go back a half step, that should be 3. If we go back a whole step, that should be 2. And if we go back a whole step again to the open A string, that should be 1. And it should sound the exact same when you start from the 10th fret of the E string or the 5th fret of the A string. If they don't sound the same, then pause the video and figure out what you're doing wrong. But they sound the same. Now, the diagram should look like this. And then if we know that above 1 is 4, and above 2 is 5, and above 3 is 6, then from the open A string, I could get something that looks like this. Then play the open D string, 4, 2nd fret would be 5, and then 4th fret would be 6. Now this looks similar to this part of the scale, so I could copy and paste the 7 and 8, which would be on the 1st fret of the G string, and then 2nd fret of the G string. And then we're back at our root note, or the octave I should say. Now if you play both these patterns, I'll highlight one green and one yellow. They should sound exactly the same. If you start from the 5th fret and do this pattern, the green pattern, sounds like that. And if you start from the open A string, it should sound the same. I need you to start thinking like this. This will get you outside of the cage system and all of these like cheap patterns you see on YouTube. You'll be able to just go anywhere because you know where your numbers are and where your root notes are. And yeah, it will help you so much when it comes to improvising in the last chapter of this video. Right, let's start stacking these scales. Right, so that scale shape we just learned to play in 2 places was called a major scale, 3 notes per string. And I know it's only 3 notes on 2 of the strings. Don't worry about that. Anyways, what we're going to do is stack the scales so that we can extend our playing range and, have fun with more notes. So if you follow me to the 5th fret of the low E string, from there just do a major scale, 3 notes per string. Now we know that the octave is the same as 1. So from there, if that's 1, 2 is going to be a whole step above that, 3 is going to be a whole step above that. And instead of doing a half step to 4, I want you to go to the next string. So we know 4's above 1, so that would be the 7th fret of the G string. A whole step above that would be 5. A whole step above that would be 6. Now what I want you to do is pause the video and see if you can figure out where 7 is and 8 to complete the scale. Your starting point will be the 7th fret of the D string. Have a go. I'll assume you didn't pause, let's just do it together. So we're starting from the 7th fret of the D string. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 is a fret down and a string above 5. And then 8 will be a half step above that. And altogether you've got Now, if you've got good ears, you should see that that doesn't sound right. It sounds a bit wonky. And there's one annoying rule when it comes to guitar. Based on the way the guitar's tuned, when we're moving towards the B string, we have to shift our patterns up by 1 fret. So if 7's normally this pattern, moving towards the B string, we'll take 7 and move it up by 1 fret. So now it's on the 9th fret of the B string. And then 8 is a half step above 7. So if you play it now, the diagram should look like this. The scale sounds fine. Now, if you're going backwards from the B string, then just reverse engineer that and move back down by 1 fret with your pattern. But if you're moving towards the B string, then shift everything up by 1 fret. After the B string, it's fine. You can do the same thing again. You won't get any problems. But when you're moving towards the B string, watch out for the B sting and don't get your skills sounding funky. Cool. Yeah. I'll do another example. So say 1's on the 5th fret of the G string. 4 is usually above 1, right? But since we're on the B string, we have to move it up by 1 fret. So 4 would now be here on the 6th fret of the B string. Let's say 2 is the 7th fret of the G string. 5 is usually above 2, but because we're on the B string, we'd have to move it up by 1 fret. And it looked like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. When you're moving towards the B string, you have to move it up by 1 fret and you'll be fine. Alright, cool. Well done for making it this far in this lesson. Now I'm going to show you one big diagram, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed with all the numbers and whatnot. I just want you to spot the patterns that we've been discussing throughout this first chapter. 4 is always above 1, 5 is always above 2, 6 is always above 3, 7 is always a half step behind 1, 1 is always above 5, and so on. So yeah, just look at this diagram and make some comprehension out of it. Okay, now you have a good idea of how the fretboard actually works. What we're going to do is take our major scale and make 2 more scales with it. The 2 scales are going to be the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic. So if you follow me to fret 5 of the low E string, that's our starting point, and just do a major scale 3 notes per string from there. Now to make a major pentatonic, all we're going to do is remove the numbers 4 and 7. So now you've just got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Then you can play the octave if you want. Now in chapter 4, I'll explain why we remove the numbers 4 and 7. There's a logical reason for it. But for now, just know that the major pentatonic formula is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Now when you reach the octave, you could legit just do the same pattern again. From there, 7th fret of the D string, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And then from there, if we go to the octave again, remember, we have to move it up by 1 fret because we're on the B string. We can do the same pattern from the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 6. And that's the 3-2 system. It's better than Kitter's nonsense, bruv. So it's not actually called the 3-2 system, and it's not some new system. This is just called major pentatonic. And right now it looks like this. But by the end of this video, I'll show you how to make it look like this and how to actually play through it fluently so you can actually improvise and have fun with it. To make our minor pentatonic scale, we have to learn two more things: what a sharp is and what a flat is. A sharp is simply when you take one note and you move it up by 1 fret. So if I'm on 4 and I move it up by 1 fret, this will be called sharp 4, and a sharp is depicted with a sign that looks like a hashtag. So again, all a sharp is when you take one note and you move it up by 1 fret. Now a flat is the opposite. When you flatten a note, you move it down by 1 fret. So if I'm on 6 and I flatten it, then it will be called flat 6. And that's usually depicted with a lowercase b before the number. So 6 is on the 7th fret on the 9th fret of the A string. And then I flatten it, so now it's going to be on the 8th fret of the A string. Now if I'm on 4 again, and I flatten it, it won't be called flat 4, it'll just be called 3, because when you flatten 4, 3 is a half step behind it. So rather than saying flat 4, you'll just say 3. And yeah, that's all you need to know about sharpening and flattening. Sharp, move up by 1 fret, flatten, move down by 1 fret. So to make a minor pentatonic scale with our major scale, I want you to play 1. And the next note is going to be flat 3. So you'll find 3, which is on the 9th fret of the E string, and then flatten it. So now it's on the 8th fret. The next note is 4. We know 4 is above 1, so go to the 5th fret of the A string. The next note is 5. 5 is a whole step above 4. The next note is flat 7. So we'll take 7, which is on the 6th fret of the D string, and flatten it. So now it's called flat 7. And lastly, you've got 8 or 1 again. So the formula for a minor pentatonic scale is 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and that's it. You can go back to the octave or 1 if you want to make it sound a bit complete. Now if you've been playing guitar for a while, you've definitely recognized this scale, but this is the theory behind it. Chapter 4, again, I'll explain how we came to getting the minor pentatonic scale, but yeah, that's all you need to know. Major pentatonic, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Minor pentatonic, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and yeah. And normal major scale is just numbers 1 to 7. Yeah, let's move on to chapter 2. Okay, so how do we take a basic major scale and turn that into some chords that we can play? Maybe not that last bit, but how do we take a basic major scale and do that? It's very simple. First, you need to know how to build a major scale and what intervals are. Secondly, we need to know interval shapes. Now, the first two basic intervals you learnt was a whole step and a half step, but these actually have names. Two of them we know already. One is called the root note and one is called the octave, but all the other intervals in between the root and octave also have names as well. So if we start on the 3rd fret of the low E string, we'll do our major scale from there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1 again. Now 1's called the root, 2 two. I'm running out of breath. Like, I don't breathe as I'm talking, and then I'll just like. Anyways, one's called the root, two is called the major second, three is called the major third, four is called the perfect fourth, five is called the perfect fifth, six is called the major sixth, seven is called the major seventh, and eight is called the octave. Now, you could just remember it as this. Every number is a major except 4 and 5. Just think 4 and 5 is perfect. 2, 3, 6 and 7 are majors. Major 2, major 3, major 6, major 7. I've got an interval shape sheet on my website that you can download for free. This will help you build chords and do whatever you need to do on the guitar. What we're going to do now is something called harmonizing the major scale in thirds. You'll understand what I mean by thirds in a bit, but for now, I just need you to know that harmony is just when you stack notes on top of each other. So if I go to the third fret of the low E string, that's our 1, our starting point, our root note. Now if I find 4, we know 4 is above 1, so third fret of the A string, and I play 1 and 4 together. Here we've got harmony because we've just stacked another note on top of 1. Now if I find 7, which is the 4th fret of the D string, and I put my third finger there, we're adding some more harmony because we're stacking more notes on top of the notes we've already got. That sounds alright. Sounds cool. Anyways, there's 3 shapes that we have to know, and this is where knowing your interval names and the shapes come in handy. The first one will be one you already know, and that's an octave. If you put your first finger on the third fret of the low E string, that's our root note. And if you put your third finger on the 5th fret of the D string, that's our octave. If you play them together at the same time, then you've got an octave shape. Quick note, if you're playing an octave shape and you've got a stubborn A string, what you can do is move your first finger down slightly while still pressing down on the third fret of the low E string, and lightly touch the A string so that it makes no noise. So you can play 1 and 8 together at the same time while like strumming. Later on in this chapter, we're going to be playing some bigger chords, so you're going to need to get good at muting. And to do that, what you can do is use this whole arch bridge part of your first finger and just lie it down on the rest of the strings. Try that with an octave shape and make sure that the only numbers that are playing when you pick each string are 1 and 8. So even though I'm strumming all the strings, only 1 and 8 are making a sound. And that's just me getting my first finger and laying it down on the rest of the strings. Like that. I'm not barring, I'm just laying it down gently on the rest of the strings. The next shape we need to know is a major third. Now if 1 is on the third fret of the low E string, we know a major second or 2 is a whole step up from that, so 5th fret, and a whole step up from that is our 3, our major third. Now we want to harmonize that, so playing 1 and 3 at the same time. Pause the video, see if you can find out how you can play 1 and 3 at the same time, because we obviously can't do it on the same string. Pause here. I'll assume you didn't pause, let's just do it together. Okay, so we know that 4 is above 1. And a half step behind 4 is 3. So to play 1 and 3 at the same time together, you put your second finger on the third fret of the low E string, and first finger on the second fret of the A string. Now with this, I just want you to listen to the sound. It sounds kind of happy. Dun, 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 dun. All of these intervals have a specific sound, so start thinking, what does this sound like? You can see a major third as sweet, sugar, happy. It makes a chord happy. anytime a chord says major chord or something, I'm thinking automatically it has a third. Or I can play a third. Okay, cool. So we know how to play 1 and 3 in 2 ways. We can play it on the same string, 3rd and 7th fret, or we can play at the same time, 3rd fret of the low E string and 2nd fret of the A string. So now we've just harmonized 1 and 3, and the distance between 1 and 3 is a major third. That's the interval name, major third. The last shape is called a perfect fifth. If you put your first finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string, that's our root note. And if I said find 5 from there, I don't want you to think, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want you to think, okay, 1's here, 4's above 1, and if 4's there, then 5 is a whole step above that. So 5 will be on the 5th fret of the A string. Now if we play them together, we've got a perfect fifth. You might know it as a power chord if you've been playing for a while, but that's all it is, playing 1 and 5 together. So yeah, there's another way we can play it. If you put your pinky on the 3rd fret of the low E string, and you know what, this was a stupid way to do it, but we'll just go with it. Pinky on the 3rd fret of the E string, and then you can just play an open D string. That open D string is the same as playing a 5th on the 5th fret of the A string, because the open D string is the same as the 5th fret of the A string. Normally you wouldn't do it like this, obviously, if there's an open string, but let's say you're on the 8th fret of the E string. You'd use your first finger on the 5th fret of the D string to still do that same 5th shape. You'll see why this is useful in a second. But yeah, now we know how to do a 3rd and a perfect 5th. Let's start building these chords. To harmonize the major scale, what we're going to do is one simple formula. We'll start on our root note, 3rd fret of the low E string, and from there you want to skip the next note in the major scale, so that's 2, and then land on 3. Once we're on 3, we want to determine the distance between 1 and 3, and we know that's a major third. So the first piece of harmony we've got in our chord is 1 and 3, but we can't play them on the same string. We have to figure out how we can play 1 and 3 at the same time. Now 5 minutes ago I explained how to do this. You can think of it as, you know, just one major third shape like this, or you can think, oh, 4 is above 1 and a half step behind 4 is 3. So that's how we play 1 and 3 at the same time. 3 would be on the 2nd fret of the A string. Cool, now we're on 3. We want to skip the next note, which is 4, and then land on 5. Then determine the distance between 1 and 5. That's a perfect fifth. So we have 1, a major third, and a perfect fifth in the chord. But we can't play the perfect fifth with this because it's on the same string as 3 now. So how can we add 5 to it? Like 5 minutes ago I showed you the other version of a perfect fifth where you start with your pinky and you can play it on the D string instead. It'll be the same thing here, but this chord it'll be the same thing here, but we're going to use an open D string, which will be the same as playing 5. So we've got 3rd fret of the low E string, which is 1, 2nd fret A string, which will be 3, and then the open D string, which is our perfect fifth. And then we've got a happy G major chord. The root note is a G note, so that's the name, and the formula for the chord we're doing is a major chord, which is 1, 3, 5. Now if you know a G chord, then this should be very similar. You're just playing the first 3 strings of it. So we're going to do that for every note in the major scale. Right now we've just done it from our root note. We skip the next note, land on the next, then skip the next note, land on the next to figure out the chord for that. We're going to do that for each note in the major scale, and then afterwards we'll start making songs. Alright, so the first chord starts on the first note of the scale. That means the second chord is going to start on the second note of the scale. Now, I've highlighted the root note of it red. It's not the root note of the scale. It's the root note of the chord we're about to play. So everything I say is in reference to here. Now, since this is number 2, we apply the same formula. We'll skip 3, which is the next note, and land on 4. Then we determine the distance between 2 and 4. Now, this isn't an interval shape we've learned yet. We know that a major third looks like this, where the third would be on the 4th fret of the A string in reference to our root note. However, the shape we've got is the 3rd fret of the A string. This is called a minor third because we've taken our 3 and we've flattened it. And you can hear the difference. Major third sounds happy. Minor third sounds sad. When I'm improvising, soloing and whatnot, as soon as I hear a minor chord, I'm automatically thinking, okay, I can play 1, I can play flat 3, because it will work with the chord. Cool, so we've got a minor third shape. Now, since we're on 4, we'll skip 5 and land on 6. Then see 6's relation to 2. Or our root note, I should say. And we know this is a perfect fifth, we've already done that. Now we need to harmonize it and play all 3 of these notes at the same time. The minor third shape is fine, but how do we add a perfect fifth on top? We can't do it because it's on the same string as our minor third. So we need to find a different way to play it, and this is where that shape comes in handy. If you put your pinky on the 5th fret of the low E string, put your second finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, that's our minor third, and then your first finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, that's our perfect fifth, our minor chord. Replay this as many times as you have to so you can get it. I'm talking in relation to the shapes. You can see it like this, 2, 4 and 6, but I want you to try to see it as 1 flat 3 and 5. So that's how you make a minor chord, 1 flat 3 5. Before I speed through the next 4 chords, you should be having a light bulb moment right now. If a chord is simply just playing an intervallic formula, let's say a major chord is 1 3 5, then imagine if your fretboard looks like this. If you know where all your 1s are, you could just put 1 3 5 anywhere and just play them at the same time, and then you've got a major chord. And you don't even have to do 1 3 5, you could do 3 5 1, 5 3 1, or you can mix up the order and you'll still get the same general sound. And that's the beautiful thing about this guitar system. You're not limited to cage, you're not limited to this one pattern that's going to help you across the whole fretboard and all this nonsense that's out there. You can legit just build a chord as long as you know where your root note is. And I want you to see chords like this. Let's say a major chord. Let's say you've got pot noodles. Your 1 can be the pot, your 3 is the seasoning, let's say chicken seasoning, and your 5 can be the water. Now 5 is a neutral, perfect fifth is neutral, it doesn't have a happy or sad sound, it just absorbs what's around it. So if your 3 is some delicious sweet chicken seasoning, 5 is going to absorb that and add like some buffness to it, you know what I'm saying? See, like that. Yeah, if I give you an example, let's say I'll just do a root note anywhere. I could do 1 3 5 like this, and it sounds happy. 5 is absorbing that happiness, it just adds some oomph to it. Now if I do 1 flat 3 5, 5 again is just absorbing the sadness of it and adding some beef to it, right? The only thing that's changing in this chord is my 3. I'm doing major third, minor third. And you can hear the difference. It's the 3 that makes a chord major or minor in most cases. But when you're starting off with all this like chord building, 5 doesn't do anything just yet. So see 1 as the foundation, your root note, your starting point. 3 is adding some seasoning and whatnot, and 5 just adds some buffness to it, so it sounds big enough to, you know, eat or digest. I don't know what. You get the picture, man. You get the picture. So yeah, let's move on to chord 3. I'm gonna speed through the next 4 chords because I can hear you saying, "Yo, hurry up! You're talking too slow." I do explain things quickly, but when I do, people say they can't understand and whatnot. So, I'm trying to make everyone happy here. Anyways, I'm sorry. Let's go. So, chord 3 starts on the 7th fret of the low E string. 1, 2, 3. Now, from here, we skip 4 and go to 5. Then we determine the distance between our root note and 5. It's similar to the chord we just did before. We know it's a minor third. So automatically you should be thinking, oh, this chord's a minor chord. Cool. Now we're on 5, we skip 6, go to 7. Determine the distance between 7 and our root note. That's a perfect 5th. So we have 1, flat 3, and 5. And here we've got a minor chord. Cool. I'll do a little short pause thing and then we'll do the next part. Okay, we start on 4, 3rd fret of the A string. From 4, we skip 5, go to 6. Determine 6's relation to our root note. We know that's a major third. Sounds happy. So automatically you should be thinking this is a major chord. Now we can't play on the same string. We know how to play or stack a third on top of a root note, and we do it like this. The third would be on the 2nd fret of the D string. From here, we skip 7 and go to the octave. Determine the octave's relation to our root note. This is a perfect 5th. So now we have 1, 3, and 5. But we can't play 5 on the same string as 3. So again, we'll do something we did with the first chord. We'll find a different place to play 5. And if we use this shape here, then we can play the open G string. And then we've got a major chord. This will be C major because C is our starting point. C is the name, type of chord, major chord. Okay, now we start on 5. Here, this is where knowing your numbers is important because we're going to go into the 2nd octave with our shapes. So from 5, we skip 6 and go to 7. 7's relation to our root note, that's a major third. You should be thinking this is a happy chord, major chord. Okay, from 7, we skip the octave. Let's just see it as 1 again, and then we go to 2. 2's relation to our root note is a perfect 5th. So we have 1, 3, 5. But we can't play 5 on the same string as our 3, so we have to find a different way to do it. And we can do it like this. 5 would be on the 2nd fret of the G string. Cool. And this will be a D major chord because D is our starting point. D is the 5th fret of the A string. 6th chord. From here, we skip 7, go to 1. So, 1's relation to 6, or should I say 1's relation to our root note, that's going to be a minor third. So, this is going to be a minor chord. And then from 1, we skip 2, go to 3. And we see 3's relation to our root note. This is going to be a perfect 5th. So we have 1, flat 3, and 5. But we can't play 5 on the same string as the flat 3. So we'll find a different place to play it, and we can play it on the 4th fret of the G string. Like this. Right? So altogether we've got major chord, minor chord, minor chord, major chord, major chord, minor chord. Now 7 is where it gets quite interesting. So we'll start on 7, which is the 4th fret of the D string. Skip 1, go to 2. C2's relation to our root note. This will be a minor third, a flat 3. But we can't play it on the same string, so we'll find a different way to play it. We know that we can play this shape, so that'll be the 2nd fret of the G string. our minor third. From 2, we skip 3 and land on 4. Then we see 4's relation to our root note. And this is an interval shape we haven't learned yet. Our 5th looks like this. But when we flatten 5, we get something called a diminished 5. Now here we're not flattening anything because the scale makes us land on the 4. So we don't have to change any notes. It's just the shape we've got now. So here we've got a diminished 5, and this will make our chord a diminished chord. If you have 1, flat 3 and flat 5 together, you got a diminished chord. And you get this terrifying sound. You probably heard it in cartoons. But yeah, we can't play the flat 5 on the same string as our flat 3. So again, we need to do that thing where we need to know where else can we play the same note or interval. And we can play that flat 5 on the 1st fret of the B string. Now normally it would probably be an open string, but remember when we're traveling towards the B string, we have to move any shape we've got up by 1 fret. So that means normal 5 would be 1 fret above that on the 2nd fret. Here you've got 1 flat 3 and normal 5, which makes a minor chord. And then if you flatten that, you've got a diminished chord. And yeah, these are all the chords in this key. The key would be G because our first chord started on the 3rd fret of the low E string, which is a G note, and our whole chord progression was within that scale. Ugh. There we go. And now the next number we're gonna start is 1, but we know 1's a major chord. We know 1's a major chord. So from the 5th fret of the D string, see if you can build a major chord from there. 1, 3, and 5. Just remember, since with this chord, you probably will have to go to the B string, move up whatever note is there by 1 fret. Yeah, just pause the video and do that. Gonna assume we didn't pause the video, let's just do it together. So we have 1 on the 5th fret of the D string, then 3 on the 4th fret of the G string, and then our 5 is usually this shape, but because we're moving towards the B string, it's going to be on the 3rd fret of the B string. And there you've got a major chord. Cool, let's make these a bit more playable. Because realistically, you're not going to be playing them like that. It's possible, and it just depends on the circumstance, but you're not going to be playing the chords like that. Alright, so we know how to play chords in a key now. What we're going to do is play them a bit more economically. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but bars. So I want you to put your first finger on the root note, 3rd fret of the low E string, and then play an octave shape from there. So 3rd finger will go on the 5th fret of the D string. Now from the octave, we know the octave is the same as 1. They're both the same note, that's why they're both highlighted red on the diagram. I want you to find the 3rd above that. Now we know 4 is above 1, so that'll be the 5th fret of the G string, and a half step behind 4 is 3. So the 4th fret of the G string will be our 1, and you can play that with your middle finger. Now it's just 1 and 3, so it's going to give a nice happy sound. If we want to beef it up a little, we can add 5. So if you move your 3rd finger up 1 string, so 5th fret of the A string, there's our 1, then 5, and then the 2nd finger is doing the 3. And we have a nice full chord here. The 1 and 5 at the base gives that beefy type of henchness. You know, I'm not even going to cut that out, let's keep going. And the 3 on top is like a nice color note to give that that cherry on top. No pun intended. That sweet sound on top. Again, remember, use the arch of your finger to mute the strings above, well, underneath your first finger. That shouldn't be played. Now, you don't always have to do full-on bar chords and all that stuff. Sometimes you can play smaller voicings like this. Then when it's time to kind of build up a song, you can go all out with your heavy bar chords and whatnot. Cool. So the reason I said find the 3 in reference to the octave, whatever number you're looking for, find it in reference to the nearest 1 when you're building chords and whatnot. Because it wouldn't make sense to use the root note on the 3rd fret of the low E string and try and find 3 on the G string. That's just a headache. So find your closest one. We know, it's on the 5th fret of the D string. And then from there, find out whatever note you're looking for. In our case, it was 3. Cool. So with these chords, what we're going to do is have 1 and 5 in the bass to give it a strong foundation, and then have our color note on top. The first chord's major. The second chord in the key is minor, so let's do that. Pull your first finger on the 2nd note of the major scale, 5th fret of the low E string, and then we'll do a 5th from there. But this time I want you to do with your pinky. So your pinky will be on the 7th fret of the A string, and then instead of doing 3 like last time, we know it's a minor chord. Flat 3 gives that minor sound. So put your middle finger on the 5th fret of the G string. And here we've got an A minor chord. We're doing 1, 5, flat 3. 1, 5, flat 3. Cool. The next chord starts on the 7th fret of the E string. And it's a minor chord, so you can take this same shape that we just did and just move it up by 2 frets. And we've got B minor. Now the next number, we know 4 is a half step above 3, so you could move to the 8th fret now and do a major shape from there, 1, 5, 3, like the first chord. But if we're going to do it in the key again, if we're going to do it in the key still, we'll do it from the 3rd fret of the A string. So from here, 1 and 5, your first finger's 1 on the 3rd fret of the A string, your 3rd finger will go on the 5th fret of the D string to do the perfect 5th, and then your pinky will go on the 5th fret of the B string. Now it's not a similar shape to the first chord. Normally it would look something like this, where your 2nd finger would go on the 4th fret of the B string, and that'll be the 3. But remember, when we're moving towards the B string, we move whatever pound we've got up by 1 fret. So our 3 is going to be on the 5th fret of the B string. And we've got a shape like this. The 5th chord of the key is major, so we can do the same thing again. Just move the shape up by 2 frets. And the 6th chord of a key is minor, so move your shape up by 2 frets. And instead of using your 3rd finger, put your 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the B string to flatten the 3. Cool. The next note is going to be on the 4th fret of the D string, and we're going to do a flat 5 instead. So I want you to put your 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the G string, and then pinky on the, oh my gosh, pinky on the, I got this 5th fret of the E string. This will be, bruv, my phone just ran out of storage. I deleted most of my photos and videos on it, so I can see this video through to the end. So if you haven't liked or subscribed yet, do it right now. Support the cause. Save people from the system that puts them in a cage. They call me Moses. Let my people go. That's so stupid. Hey, let's just get back to the chords. Alright, so we were on chord 7. What was I saying? We did 1, 4th fret of the D string, and then our flat our flat 5 was on the 5th fret of the G string, and then our flat 3 was on the 5th fret of the E string, the high E string. So we got that diminished sound going again, right? And then the next chord will be our octave, or 1 again, which starts on the 5th fret of the D string. And then from there, do 1, 5 with your 3rd finger, and then put your pinky on the 7th fret of the high E string. That'll be your 3, because the B string pushes everything up by 1 fret. Yeah, so that's all the chords together. What we're going to do now is see how we can turn them into bar chords, and then we're going to start making some music. I'm thinking about harmonizing in 7ths, but I don't think my phone can handle it. I'm doing this all from my phone, by the way, and my laptop with Guitar Pro. My phone's thinking, yo, man, please just end the video here. Now, we've got like 30 minutes to go, maybe another hour. Let's do this. So what's the practicality of using these smaller chord voicings? If you're playing in a band or with any rhythm instrument, most of the time they'll probably be playing big chunky chords. For guitarists, that could be a big open chord or even a bar chord. For a keys player, they might play their 10-finger dominant sus5 sharp 11 chords that they love to do, which is really irritating. But when you play these smaller voicings, you don't clash with anyone. Imagine you're playing with a guitarist and you're both playing a G chord open chord. That doesn't make sense. And then what if one of you do an open chord and the other's doing a bar chord? You're essentially playing the same thing at that point. So with these smaller voicings, you stay out of people's way and you don't clash as much with them. You might think, okay, I know he's playing a G chord. Let me find G anywhere on the fretboard. And from there, do 1, 5 with a 3 on top. Yo, that's out of tune. There we go. And when you get more advanced with guitar, these smaller voicings allow one finger to be free. So then you can start adding different notes in and doing some more advanced cool stuff. So yeah, more or less you just stay out of people's way and you don't clash with anyone. And if you get good at this, number stuff, you don't have to play 1, 5 and 3. You can do 3, 5 and 1. You can do 1, 3, 5. You can do 5, 1, 3, and then I don't even know what this note is, bruv. 7. You can start doing extra things and not playing a full chord, but breaking a chord down and start making it more colorful, I guess. Picking and choosing what notes you want to hear on top. If you think 3 sounds nice on the top, cool. If you think 5 sounds nice at the top, you can do that. Maybe you want 1 at the top. Maybe you want 3 on the top. There we go. Like that. The world's your oyster once you understand how these numbers work and whatnot. Before we start making some songs, let's see how we can take these small shapes and turn them into some bigger, fuller bar chords. Now, if you've been playing for a while, you probably know how to do bar chords, but I want you to have a different perspective on it now. With bar chords, let's say we're going to do a G major chord. A bar chord essentially is a power chord with a nice little triad on top. A triad is just a 3-note chord. What we've been doing today: 1, 3, 5, 1 flat 3, 5, a 3-note chord. Anyways, if you put your first finger, in fact, just bar the 3rd fret, Then put your third finger on the 5th fret of the A string, pinky on the 5th fret of the D string, and then middle finger on the 4th fret of the G string. Now we've got a G major bar chord. I want you to see it like this though. On the E string, the low E string, that's our root note. Our third finger is the 5, the perfect 5th. So at the bottom of this chord, we've got a strong perfect 5th foundation. Powerful. This is why it's called a power chord, because it sounds powerful. And now on top of this power chord, our pinky is doing the octave, our middle finger is doing the major third, and then on the B string we're doing a perfect 5th. So 1, 3, 5, and then we've got our colors. Really it's just the 3 that adds the color in the chord to make it sound happy. But yeah, you've got a power chord at the bottom, and then on top of that you've got our nice little major triad adding the colors in. Now the last string we're just doing 1 again, because both of the E strings are playing the same note. So we've got a 1 at the top of this chord, and that gives us our bar chord. We can do the same with the second chord, but the only difference is we're flattening the 3. So all we have to do is take our middle finger off, starting on the 5th fret. The next chord is minor, so we can move the shape up by 2 frets. This is the third note of that G major scale we did. 1, 2, 3. We know that's a minor chord. The next chord is a C chord. So it's a bit different, but it's the same principle. At the bottom, we've got 1 and 5. Put your bar the 3rd fret with your first finger, but bar up to the A string. Use the tip of your first finger to mute the E string, so it doesn't make a sound. Put your second finger on the 5th fret of the D string, third finger on the 5th fret of the G string, and pinky on the 5th fret of the B string. Now your pinky is going to be the 3. Remember, when we're moving towards the B string, we have to move our hands up by 1 fret. And then your first finger on the E string, high E string, is playing the 5th. So at the bottom again, we've got a power chord. Then on top of that, we're adding the colors in. I say colors, it's just 3 that adds the color, but you get the picture. The next chord is the same, 5th fret. The next chord is minor, so we're going to switch it up a bit. Bar the 7th fret, third finger on the 9th fret of the D string, pinky on the 9th fret of the G string, and middle finger on the 8th fret of the B string. At the bottom of the chord, again, you've got a power chord, 1 and 5. Then on top of that, the flat 3 adds the color. Now for the last 2 chords, it's a bit different. You're not gonna do a bar here, but I'll give you the shape. It'll look like this. And then the last chord, you can do a bar. You don't have to. It's up to you. But it's gonna be this shape. It's like a D chord. And that's all the chords in this key of G. Dude, my phone's crying right now. Every time I try to edit an image on CapCut, the frame rate drops to like 2 frames per second. And then I'm thinking, yo, is it even worth it making this? Like, can you imagine? I got like 2 views on this video. I'd be so mad. Like, it'd be quite funny. I'd actually cry, you know. What I was doing there was playing with chords in the key. This is what we're going to do now. We know how to do a major scale. We know how to put chords in a major scale. We know how to turn those chords into bar chords. now it's time to put these chords together and actually make music. So, the first thing you need to learn is chord functions in a key. We have 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 7 notes give us 7 chords. Once we have the chords, we need to know what chord does what in a key. Now there's 3 words you need to learn. One is called tonic, the next is called subdominant, and then after that we've got something called dominant. All tonic means is stability, a chord that makes you feel at home. It resolves a song, doesn't need anything else added to it. Subdominant means movement, so it makes the song feel like it's traveling somewhere, right? And dominant just means tension. You know, it makes you feel uneasy, like it needs to go back home for stability, right? So I'll just play something and I want you to listen to it. What I'm going to do is play a tonic, subdominant, and then dominant. Stability, movement, tension. So we've got stability, movement, tension, stability again. Happy ending, it feels completed. Now if I stop on the tension part, movement, tension, feels like it needs to go back home, right? So this is what I mean by stability, movement, and tension. Now what chord does what? I'll put the chords up here in order, 1 to 7. In fact, I'll add 8 as well, and I'll put numbers underneath them. Chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, and so on. If the number is blue, that's a tonic, means stability. If a number is green, it'll be a subdominant for movement, and if a chord is red, that'll mean tension. And then we'll put them together to make something. Alright, what we're going to do is make 3 songs. You're going to pick the chords for each song and let me know what to play. You can pick tonic, subdominant, whatever, and we'll see what it sounds like. Okay, so the first. Okay, so what we're going to do is make 3 songs. You can pick the chords, pick tonic, subdominant, dominant, whatever you want, mix and match, and we'll see what it sounds like. So pick any chords and let me know what you pick. Did you say 1? Okay, cool. We got G. You want 4? Nice, nice. And then 5. Cool. This is a very common chord progression. It's in 12-bar blues. And what's that song called? Brown Eyed Girl. Da, 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 da. Okay, cool. We'll do 1 for 5. I'll call out the chords as I'm going along. What I want you to try is using the chords on the screen, but if you remember the smaller voicings we did, you can use those. If you know where to find 1 in different places, maybe try doing a smaller voicing from there. 1, 5 with 3 on top. Maybe even doing power chords. You know, a power chord is just 1 and 5. So when we're on G chord, the first chord, go to the 3rd fret of the low E string and just play 1 and 5 from there. A perfect 5th. When we're on 4th chord, C, do 1 and 5 from there. 3rd fret of the A string. 1 power chord. And then same thing for D, 5th fret of the A string. Power chord, 1 and 5. Cool. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's too fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Going to 4. Going to 5. Back to 1. Let me know if that's too fast. 1 again. Too fast? Okay, we'll slow it down. 4. 5. 1 again. 1. Going to 4. 5. 1 again. 1. Smaller voicings. 4. 5. Back to 1. 1 was our tonic, 4 gave us the movement, and 5 was the tension. And then when we came back to 1 at the end, that's a happy ending, stability. Because it's a major chord, you can see as happy ending because major chords sound happy. Pick another chord progression. You said 6. Okay. Then 3. Now 5. Then you want 2. That sounds kind of cool. You want me to play it as calypso as well? Say no more, say no more. Okay, so 6, 3, 5, 2. Calypso style. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 3, 5, 2, 6, 3, go into 5, 2, 6 again, 3, 5, 2, 6, 3, go into 5, 2, end on 6. Now 6 is a minor chord, but it also gives stability, so you can see it as a sad ending. But if we landed on 2, if we landed on 1, let's say, one sounds complete as well because it's a tonic, but it's a happy chord, so it will sound like a happy ending. Last chord progression, pick 3 chords this time. You said 7. That's a bold choice. It's a very disgusting chord. Sounds cool though. Then 3. Okay, nice, nice. And then 6. What'd you say? You want to turn 3 into a major chord? That's a weird idea, but let's try it. Let's try it. So 3 normally has a flat 3 in it because it's a minor chord. But what if we turn it into a major chord? So it has the same shape as 1, our first chord. That sounds kind of interesting. Let's see what it sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 7. 3, but major. 6. 7. 3, but major. 6. 6 again. 7. 3, but major. 6. 6. 7. 3, but major. 6. 6 again. You want to end on 7. Yeah, that's a lot of tension. Doesn't sound nice, but you get the picture. Now, a cool thing you can do with all these chords is turn them from minor to major, change the voicing. There's so many things you can do to make it a lot more interesting than just playing these 7 chords. This is just the foundation, so try and learn this all off by heart. You can start messing around with them like that. Before I go into the last chapter of this video, I need to explain why 3 is a tonic and a dominant at the same time. Basically, it shares a note from the first chord, and it shares a note from the 5th chord. So it's not a strong tonic, where it feels at home, but it's not a strong dominant at the same time. If you turn it into a major chord, that's when it sounds like a dominant chord and there's tension. need to stop doing that, man. Yeah. So that's why 3 is not a tonic or dominant. It's just like in the middle until you turn into a major chord. If you want to learn cool stuff like that, get better at soloing, then join my little community called I forgot what it's called, bruv. I was gonna say the laboratory. Is it called Guitar? It's called Guitar Alchemy because we take all of these numbers and we do cool stuff with them. And I've got this little Discord called The Laboratory where you can learn with other guitarists and we can all share knowledge we get. It'll also fund me to get like new equipment. Yo, I'm just doing this on my iPhone and an old laptop. So yeah, if you're interested in getting better at guitar and like learning and, you know, just having a nice vibe, then join up, man. So yeah, let's go into chapter 4, improvisation. We're going to improvise over 2 chord progressions. 1 4 5, which is a common one, and the other one that I really liked that you picked, that was 6 3 5 and 2. Let's do this. I promised to tell you why major pentatonic is 1 2 3 5 6 and not 1 2 3 4 7 or something. Basically, we've got something called chord tones. You've probably heard of it before. All a chord tone is what notes build that chord. So for a major chord, the chord tones would be 1, 3, and 5. For a minor chord, the chord tones will be 1, flat 3, and 5. And for a diminished chord, the chord tones will be 1, flat 3, and flat 5. When it comes to improvising, these are the notes you want to target. So why do we use 1 2 3 5 6 specifically? To get a pentatonic from, let's say, a major chord, because we're talking about major pentatonic, all you do is remove any note that is a half step next to any chord tones. So if you look at this diagram, 1 is one of our chord tones. Are there any notes a half step next to 1? Yes, 7. Remember, 8 is the same as 1. So we'll get rid of 7 because it's right next to 1. When a note is right next to another note, it causes this dissonant sound. So if I was to play 1 and 7 at the same time, this is what it would sound like. Not too nice, right? Is there any note a half step next to 3? Yes, 4. So if I played 1, 3 and 4 at the same time, it will sound quite dissonant and not nice. Now 2, there's no half step chord tones next to it, so 2 is fine. Is there any note next to 5? No, it's all good. 6 is a whole step away from 5, not a half step, so that is fine. And that's how you get a major pentatonic. The pentatonic just avoids the dissonant, not nice sounding notes. So it's kind of hard to sound bad with pentatonic. With the chord tones, 1, your root note will always be the strongest. It will always sound like you've landed at home or something. 3 and 5, you know, they're alright. They won't sound too bad. They'll sound really good because it's part of the chord. 2 and 6, the way I'd use them is if I want my solo to be longer and I want to give that, you know, unresolved feeling, then I'll land on notes that are not part of the chord tones. Now, does that mean you can't use 4 and 7? No, you can use any note you want, but when you're soloing, especially if you're beginning, it'll be nice to land on the chord tones to get used to it. So the first progression we'll start nice and easy. We'll do 1, 4, and 5. I'm just going to play that chord progression in the background. 1, 4, 5, 1. Then repeat. While I play that progression, I'm just going to put a few ideas onto it. Each idea will target the chord tones of each chord, and you'll get a good feel for what I'm doing while I improvise, and then it'll be your turn to play over these chords. Let's do this. One, 2, 3, 4. Alright, step 1. Make a note of what chords you're playing with. Right now we're on the first chord of the key G. Now it's on C, which is the fourth chord of the key. That starts on the third fret of the A string. Now it's on 5. I know 5 is a whole step above 4. Back to 1. So I know where my root notes for the chords are. These are the notes I'm targeting. So for 1, the root note is the third fret of the E string. For 4, third fret of the A string. For 5, fifth fret of the A string. Yo, this is kinda hard. Back to 1. Now this is my root note. Next time around, let's try doing major pentatonic from 1. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, land on 1. 4. From this root note, major pentatonic again. Go to 5, major pentatonic from here. Back to 1. Major pentatonic again. Let's play 4 and 7. Doesn't sound too good, yeah? To 4. 1, 3, 5 from 4. 5. 1, 3, 5 from 5. Back to 1. Now, I know that was a basic example. I just wanted to get the gist of it. On the one chord, which was G, our root note was on the third fret of the low E string. Make a note of that. Do not lose that. On the fourth chord, C, our root note is on the third fret of the A string. On the fifth chord, D, our root note is on the fifth fret of the A string. And then back to G. Now, you can do this in two ways. What we did just now was play the major pentatonic relative to the chord. So on G, we started from our root note, third fret, low E string, and did a major pentatonic scale from there. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. From C, our root note was the third fret of the A string. You can do a major pentatonic from there. From D, our root note was on the fifth fret of the A string. You can do a major pentatonic from there. And then back to 1. Major pentatonic from there. Then at the end, I was just playing 1, 3, and 5 of each chord. This is the basics of improvising. We're going to turn it up a notch now, so get ready. Alright, the chord progression we're going to do now is 6, 3, 5, 2. Now with this, I'm going to do a little calypso thing, you get me? Because I like a little bit of seasoning. Oh, I need to stop that. I'm groovy. Anyways, with this, the chords are going to change quite quickly. You won't have time to think, 6, then 3, then I need to land on 5, then I need to land on 2. You can do that if you want, if you're really good. But I want you to pick 1 or 2 chords that you want to land on the chord tones with. Now, see, like rapping, you could be like, I was walking down the street with no shoes on my feet. Then I saw a cat eating some meat. I knocked on some door and punched someone in the jaw. And then he said, "What did you do that for?" Yeah, it sounds stupid, but it lands, right? That's how it feels when you land on chord tones. When you don't land on chord tones, it sounds like this. I was walking down the street with no shoes on my toes, and then I went to eat some chicken wings. It doesn't land, right? So when you land on chord tones of the chords, it sounds really good. 6 is a minor chord. So we've got minor pentatonic. I've shown you this. Yeah, I've shown you this. Yeah, I have. I'll put the diagram on here. It's like this. You can do that from the 6. Or you can do major pentatonic from the 1, but just target 6 as you're playing it, if that makes sense. And then the 3rd chord is minor as well. You can do minor pentatonic from there, or you can do major pentatonic from our root note and target 3, because that's the 3rd chord. The next chord is 5. We know it's a major chord, so we can do major pentatonic from there. Or you can do major pentatonic from the... Apologies. I don't even know how I'm going to export this video, to be fair. If I have to delete everything in my camera roll, I actually will. This is a good video. So yeah, as I was saying, instead of doing major pentatonic from the 5, the 5th chord, you could just go to the 1st chord, do major pentatonic from there, and target the 5. Right? And in our C, we've got the 2 chord, the 2nd chord in the key, A minor. We know it's a minor chord, so from 2, we can do minor pentatonic. Or you can go to the 1st chord again, do major pentatonic, but land on 2. Now the reason I say you can use the 1st chord is because I think there's 2 ways to say it. You can do the pentatonic scales relative to what chord you're on, or you can just go from the 1st chord, which more or less contains all the notes of each chord from the key, and then target the notes of the chords that you're going to land on. So we know the major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I'm playing 6, you could do major scale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but land on 6. If I'm playing 4, I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4. If I'm playing 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5. You get the picture. If I'm using major pentatonic, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, I can keep doing that, but just land on whatever chord I want. 4's not in major pentatonic, but I could just do 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, then land on 4. And so on. So you can do scales relative to what chord you're on, or you can just use the main, whole major scale and pick what notes you want to land on, if that makes sense. Let me know in the comments, or just send me an email or something, I'll help you out. My phone can't handle much more. So yeah, I'm gonna play the chords 6, 3, 5, 2, 6, and so on. And what I want you to do is just play over it. See everything you do as just a line. When I'm on the 6th chord, I like to eat. When I'm on the 3 chord, I like to shout. When I'm on the 5 chord, eating some pudding. When I'm on the 2 chord, I just want to sleep. Just think of it as you're saying a word on each chord or sentence. 1, 2, 3, 6. 3, 5, 2, 6, 3, 5, 2, 6, 3, 5, 2, 6, 3, 5, 2. I'm gonna go solo over this now so you have an idea of what I would do. I'll keep it nice and basic though.